All right, so guys, did you get me a really interesting guest to talk about some really urgent issue where we can plumb the depths of theology? Or did you just find me some dumb TikTok?
Prove God isn't real since you're so sure. Not a problem. There is insurmountable proof that God is not real. First and foremost, I feel it in my heart that there is no God, and honestly, that should be proof enough. But I'll keep going.
No.
Second thing that proves there's no God is unintelligent design. I mean, what kind of intelligent design is there in creating beings that can get cancer? Where's the intelligent design in creating beings that need to breathe air to live, but also the air corrodes their body? I mean, we literally breathe and eat through the same hole. Definitely unintelligent design. And then there's the fact that I've prayed many times and never heard anything back. So obviously that's proof that there's nothing on the other end. My personal experience is proof.
So the thing he's mocking, he thinks he's mocking Christianity, but what he's really mocking is a heresy like fideism, the notion that reason has nothing to do with religion. So he says, look, I don't believe in God. The proof that God doesn't exist is I
feel it really deeply in my heart.
He's mocking the notion. Some Christians say, well, I just feel that God really exists. But that's not why I believe in God. The existence of God, to quote the First Vatican Council, the existence of God can be known with certainty from reason from the created world, through reason from the created world. So how can you say that? Well, because things cause other things. You know, I smack my leftist tears tumbler and the leftist tears spill out all over the table. And then Mr. Davies will have to come in and wipe that up. And then he'll drop it off in wardrobe, and wardrobe will launder the rag that wiped it up. And then and there will be a series of causes and effects that go on for a very long time. So if there is a series of causes and effects, and you go all the way back to the beginning, there has to be an uncaused cause, God. If things are in motion, we see that things are in motion. Well, if things are moving, then if you go back far enough, there has to be an unmoved mover. That would be another way of observing that God exists. We recognize that some things are better than other things. I think this guy would admit that it's better to, an example I frequently use, bake a pie for a widow than it is to kick a toddler in the face. One is better than the other. If one of those things is morally better than the other, there must be a maximum good, a summum bonum.
A what?
I mean, even take morality out of it. If some things are just more excellent than other things, there has to, there's a more excellent runner. Ben Davies, for all of his sins, is a better runner than me. Well, if there's a gradation of excellence and perfection, then there must be a summum bonum, a greatest good. But those, you'll notice, those are all reasonable arguments. It's not just like, well, I feel it in my heart. No, actually, it's really the atheists who can't provide a good argument. I've never really heard a good argument against God. Some of them are, well, I can't see him. Okay, well, you can't see mathematics either. That doesn't tell you very much. Well, I don't know, man. How could it be? There are probably a dozen pretty good arguments for God. There are no good arguments against God. And then he says, well, the design of the world is unintelligent. Well, Christianity actually does explain that, which is that, and in explaining the world, explains our own free will, which is that the world was made perfect, but man has free will and can abuse his free will, and he did do that. So rather than it being a just so story, which is how some people might view that theory of creation, it actually makes sense of our own freedom and how we can do good and do evil, and how sometimes we want to do good but we do evil, and it makes sense of concupiscence. It actually just explains a fact, an undeniable fact of the world. Anyway, go on.
Psych!
Hold on one second before we get to any more very, very important stuff. You must go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles. You ever hear the phrase, that's unconstitutional? People toss that phrase around like confetti at a political rally. You hear it pretty much anywhere people gather to debate the issues of the day. But here's the thing. When someone drops that phrase, do you just nod along and take their word for it? Or have you ever actually cracked open the Constitution yourself to see what all the fuss is about? I think you should. And that is one of the many reasons that I'm thrilled about Hillsdale College's brand new free online course called The Federalist. You know those Federalist papers everyone references but few have actually read? They were penned by Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, and don't forget John Jay. to explain how our Constitution creates a government strong enough to protect our rights, yet safe enough to trust with power. Brilliant stuff, more relevant today than ever. Hillsdale breaks it down into 10 digestible 30-minute lectures that you can tackle whenever you want. No deadlines, no cost, no catch. Here's the bonus. They got over 40 other free courses waiting for you, from C.S. Lewis to ancient Rome to early church history. It's like having a world-class education at your fingertips. It is having a world-class education at your fingertips, completely free. I love it. Hillsdale's one of the absolute top learning institutions in the entire country, and their courses are just magnificent. The Federalist, I highly recommend. Course on C.S. Lewis, I highly recommend. Right now, go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles to enroll. No cost, easy to get started. Go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles.
Look at the stars in the sky. Obviously, there's no God. Plus, just read the Bible. Reading the Bible is one of the quickest ways to stop believing there's a God. But make sure you read it with an open heart and mind. Plus, over 6 billion people don't believe in the Christian God, so obviously it can't exist. That many people can't be wrong. So now that I've proven that there is absolutely no chance that there's a God, you go ahead and prove that there is one. I'd love to hear what you have.
Okay, well, I guess I gave a few of the St. Thomas Aquinas' 5 ways based. There are some other arguments. I always like the ontological argument that God is the maximally good being, the greatest possible being, and it's better to exist than not to exist. So if God is maximally great and has all the great-making properties and none of the corrupting properties, then he would also exist. So therefore, God exists. Again, that's one of... It's a little bit of a shakier argument for God, but I still get a kick out of it. But anyway, I think the St. Thomas's 5 ways are pretty persuasive. So it's difficult to engage with what he's saying here, because he's not making any earnest arguments. He's just mocking arguments that he thinks Christians make for the existence of God, but they're not really. I mean, maybe some Christians make them, but those wouldn't be the arguments that I would make for the existence of God. So he's just a pyromaniac in a field of straw men. I guess I would say yes. Those are silly arguments, aren't they? Anywho, what about the unmoved mover? What about like causation and movement and perfection? And, what about all that intelligibility? The fact that the world is intelligible, the fact that you can communicate, you can say something, you can convey ideas, albeit poorly, using signs and symbols, and then I can understand those ideas, and we can perceive the world and come to certain conclusions about how things objectively are, implies an intelligence that has created the world. I don't know, that would be one argument too. It's difficult to argument with snarky refutations of arguments that you yourself have never made. I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show.
September 10th, we celebrate the 10-year anniversary of The Daily Wire. 10 years of leftist tears. New shows, big moves, bigger targets. And first up is our newest show, Friendly Fire.
We're on the show?
This is it.
No safe words, no moderator.
My original proposal had been that Knowles should be moderator. We all agree on that.
We're celebrating our first decade and kicking off the next 10 years by doing what we do best.
It's really true.
Picking arguments, starting fights, and filming the whole thing.
This is enough small talk, I think.
I got a little hungry. I hope that your wife made you that sandwich.
Oh my God.
I think we do need a moderator, just a programming note.
September 10th on Daily Wire.